How's it going, YouTube? Welcome to this tier list video. I know it's not tier list season, so don't worry, this is not a meta tier list. As you probably have seen, I've been working all season on an all healers to 3k challenge, where we've been pushing all 7 healers to 3k in specifically PUG groups. Now, in order to kind of wrap that series up, which, spoiler alert, we just finished it and the finale was posted a few days ago, so check that out in the description below. But in order to kind of wrap up the series, I wanted to make 2 videos. One of which being a frequently asked questions style video where I talk through what was my favorite healer, what was the hardest healer, those kinds of questions that you guys have been asking me all season. That video is also down in the description below. I just posted it. However, the other one is I wanted to rank each healer based on basically how easy I believe of a time that healer would have on average to push to 3k in PUG groups. Basically, this is your standard PUG healing tier list. So to put it simply, it's going to be like the healers up here will probably take less time than the healers down here and so on and so forth to get to 3k if they were pugging groups. Now, really quickly, going through all of the tiers will carry every pug. This healer is a spec that has tools to literally carry any pug group that they're in. Whether you have people letting casts go off, you have tools to stop that. You have people standing in swirlies, you have tools to save them. Very powerful and easy to understand mechanics, cooldowns. They basically are the most well-rounded for a pug healing environment healer that there could be. Carries most pugs. Basically everything that I just said about carries every pug, except they might have some flaws that are more catered to pug groups. Like maybe they don't have a kick or something, so they can't really help out with resonant barrages or any of those casts that are going off. So you can carry most pug groups, but if you have a pug group that's really not helping you out in your weakness, then that could be your flaw. Or it could just be a much harder healer to play and to pick up and master than the ones in the carry every pug tier. Moving down, we have neutral. These are basically ones that could carry a lot of pug groups, but not all of them. Some of these healers might just be very strong, but you don't feel like you're ever carrying. It just feels like it's just neutral. You're not struggling, that you aren't having a negative experience, but these are the very middle of the pack pug healing healers. Below that, we have struggle bus. Now, you're on the struggle bus, but you're not chained down. You might have some great experiences, but for the most part, most of the groups that you're in, you're going to be kind of frustrated with your pugs because your spec just feels lacking. And then finally, we have the you versus the party tier. This is literally, you're not just facing the enemies. It's not PvE anymore. It is straight up PvP. You are hoping your party doesn't stand anything because you might be lacking tools to heal them. You're really hoping that they handle the kicks because you might not have a kick or stops. You are just, it's literally you versus will your party do the mechanics. And for the most part, all the healers kind of go through that, but this healer really struggles through it. So let's go and kick things off with the Preservation Evoker. And while we get into it, I want to say that the icons, you can see that they have the hero talents on there. I'm not going to rank like Flame Shaper. I am just ranking Pres Evoker. We're just going with this tier list. But starting off with Preservation Evoker. Now, I definitely do think that when it comes to difficulty to play, this healer definitely lands down on the bottom end of this tier list. This healer is very hard to play. I do think that a large majority of your playtime will be spent learning to master this spec, as opposed to a lot of these other healers you can master in a few dungeons. Preservation Evoker will be until you get to 3k before you master the spec, and even then you're not even close to mastering it. There's a lot of nuance with this spec, a lot of different variations of how you can cast your spells, so that alone extends the learning curve and extends your push time to 3k. However, that being said, you do have a very well-rounded kit nowadays, and one that can handle any situation that a pug can kind of throw you in. So I definitely don't think it's a you versus the party, because you have a kick, you have a stun, an AoE stun, you have 2 knocks, You have two mitigators that you can put on your tank now. You have two charges of your stagger, basically your time dilation. So if you have a bad tank, you can deal with that. If you have bad DPS that don't press defensives, you have Zephyr. You have a lot of tools. You also have very good, on top of your mitigators, you have very good reactive healing. You can top up your party in a split second with your instant cast Spirit Bloom. I cannot think of the name now, but your instant cast Spirit Bloom. You have just massive stasis ramps that'll heal everyone up in a second if you store a Spirit Bloom in that, or a Verdant Embrace in a Temporal Anomaly. Like, you have so many ways to slam health bars up, and that is fantastic. A great healing profile in a PUG environment. Now, you're probably like, well, then why is this healer still why are you keeping it down at the bottom of this tier list? It's still Preservation Evoker. Like I said, it's still very hard to heal, so it probably can't get above neutral for that reason. Maybe even carries most pugs because of how good its kit is right now. However, since you're pugging, as much as I like to say I've mastered positioning on Preservation Evoker, watching my footage back, the amount of times that I just literally could not hit all 5 people with my frontal heals because they're standing off in Narnia, and this one's in a garage sale, and this one's in freaking Canada. Like, it's ridiculous. This spec is really reliant on your pugs. It's not as bad as you versus the party because you can kind of deal with it, but still you will definitely struggle with this healer in pug groups for those reasons. Moving on, let's talk about Resto Shaman now. Historically, Resto Shaman has just slam dunked at the top because it had the easiest playstyle last season in Totemic. That was just like so easy. Also, it has like a Swiss Army knife of buttons. It also has like the best button in the entire game for dealing with pug groups specifically in Spirit Link Totem, because Spirit Link Totem literally doesn't have a bad use. If one person takes a big slam, put it down, they're safe. If one person's about to take a big slam, put it down, they're safe. So it's good for tank healing, group-wide healing. If the whole party is about to go through it, you just put down Spirit Link Totem, they're all fine. Like, it is literally the panic button, and that is fantastic for pug environments. But that's only once every 3 minutes. So I will say that Farseer, the new playstyle, is definitely harder than it was last season, which last season it was so easy, so well-rounded of a spec that you could just slam dunk it up here. But although Farseer is harder than Totemic, I don't think it's so much harder. You guys can roast me on a steak here if you want to. I don't think it's so much harder that it would knock it down a tier, because really all you're kind of doing is just like pressing Unleash Life on cooldown, pressing Ancestral Swiftness close to on cooldown whenever it's useful. Outside of that, like, it's kind of like you're just spot healing and spamming Chain Lightning whenever you can. You still have very powerful cooldowns. You have great mitigators. You also give everyone extra health. So now everyone who would take 60% of their health in a slam will probably only take like 53% of their health in a slam, you know? So I definitely think Resto Shaman still holds the throne of being the carry every single pug group. You have fantastic utility in your very short cooldown AoE stun. Like, you can bring Cap Totem down really low. You also have AoE knockup in Thunderstorm. You can knock back if you need to on fights like in Arakar if you need to knock back the ads. Literally, you can carry the ad mechanic on the first boss of Arakar, which fails a lot of pug groups, trust me. Like, this spec is so well-rounded for pug groups, it's insane. I'm not going to spend much more time talking about it because I like to think at least that we're all on the same page. And once again, this is just a reminder. This is not a meta tier list. I don't think Pres Evoker is so much worse than Resto Shaman. I don't think Resto Shaman's the best healer. Like, this is a pug healing tier list for pushing to 3k. Moving on, let's move on to Mistweaver Monk. Now, Mistweaver Monk definitely does have some flaws in its build right now, and it definitely does have a larger learning curve than it has in the past, because already learning how to play with Master of Harmony, learning how to play with Vitality, your tier set, all of your Tiger Palms, like, it is a little more difficult to play than it used to be, especially since Jade Empowerment has received so many tweaks throughout the past, like the recent history. You just struggle a bit more on boss fights, and this tier was kind of heavily weighted toward boss fights. Like, there are a lot of really hard boss fights, like Dawnbreaker's, all of the bosses really in that dungeon, Floodgate, all the bosses in that dungeon too, so you just struggle a lot more when you have one target to hit with that. But for the most part, like Master of Harmony does so much healing that you can kind of stumble into playing kind of okay with Master of Harmony. However, I talked about the learning curve being very heavily weighted toward the front of Pres Evoker. Like you're going to spend a lot of your time trying to learn the ins and outs of Pres Evoker at the beginning. I definitely think that Mistweaver you can kind of pick up and play it and do the same rotation at the start, but a lot of the learning curve is going to be stacked toward the end, where you're spending a lot of time trying to learn the nuances after you've mastered the basics. So I definitely do think that it kind of is even with Pres Evoker and how much time it would take to get used to everything. It's just a different scale of how long that will take or when that time will be. But I do think that it's kind of easy to pick up and play, which will kind of get you a boost into playing. You will get invited to a lot more groups than Mistweaver has in the past because a lot of people are playing physical comps right now, and Mistweaver is, not the worst healer. On top of that, you have an excellent toolkit. Like you're a mobile healer or you're a melee healer, but you're very mobile. You have a stun, you have ROP, which is fantastic. Once again, you can carry a lot of mechanics like the ads on the spider boss of Arakara. You also have a melee cooldown kick, which is fantastic. You have AoE shields with Chi-Ji. You just have a lot of tools that are really good for handling pug groups. On top of that, your spot healing, although your healing profile is very good in a pug environment because you always have a lot of maintenance healing coming in. So if someone's taking damage, it's almost like they have HOTS on them rolling, which are your ancient teaching healing numbers. So that is nice. You also have very good reactive healing if you need to. Like you can slam a Vivify on someone and it will do a lot of healing. On top of that, like externals are great and all, but in pug environments, they're kind of tricky because you can't always predict the damage that's going to come in. You can't always predict who's going to stand in a swirly. However, if someone does stand in a swirly, Mistweaver can throw a life cocoon on them after they take the damage to save them from the follow-up damage. So you do have a very good kit for a pug group, but it's not enough to carry. Like your throughput isn't enough or as reliable. It is tricky to get the maximum throughput from a Mistweaver. So a lot of harder heal checks are going to be reliant on your pug to probably press defensives until you really master that rotation or master how to handle or play through your cooldowns and play through your Tiger Palms with Enveloping Mist out. So I would put this as like this is a very good neutral healer in my opinion. You're going to struggle some. You're also going to be able to carry some, but it's not going to be most of the pug groups. But moving on, let's talk about Holy Priest. Now, I mentioned already that like proactive like mitigation is great for pug groups, but not the end all be all. It's actually kind of really good to be reactive because yes, it's nice to be able to, preempt or basically press your externals on your allies since they're probably not going to press their defensives. That's great and all. But you can only really do that if you can predict the damage. And although you have premonition as an Oracle Holy Priest, you can't predict all the damage. However, what you can do as Holy Priest is just do a metric crap load of healing. They do so much healing, it is absolutely disgusting. I was shocked at how much healing the spec did and how quickly you can top up your entire party's health bars in any pug. Like it felt like any scenario you have massive AoE healing in your premonition ramps nowadays, which are crazy. And what's really good about your premonition ramp is like all of your insight stacks you can use on Prayer of Mendings, which will do a spot heal the moment you press them, but will also apply a very powerful hot. And what's really strong about that is if you start your ramp before the damage, so say that it's something that you could predict, like a Gonsmer Onslaught's about to start, then you could premonition, insight, and then spam around your Prayer of Mendings before that damage starts. Or if people are just letting bolts go off or a resonating barrage goes off in Arakara, then you can react to that damage with that same premonition ramp and utilize your tier set that's going to be spot healing everyone that you Prayer of Mending. So I know it looks weird having Holy Priest high up, But I definitely think one, Holy Priest was just a sleeper pick. I think if this were a meta tier list, personally, I probably would rank Holy Priest a little higher than most other people would. It wouldn't be crazy high, but I definitely think I would rank it higher because I just think this spec does so much healing. Now, the reason why it can't carry all PUG groups is because it obviously lacks some things. It will obviously it does so much healing that if you're just pushing to 3k, there won't be a heal check that you will struggle with. Honestly, the spec does insane healing. But what you can't do is handle kicks as well as something like a Resto Shaman. You do have Psychic Scream, which is like an AoE kick or an AoE stop. That's okay. It's not great, but it's something. But what really sets this apart from Disc Priest, which I'm going to rank next, and I'm kind of going to bridge the gap here, is Chastise. Chastise, it might not seem like a lot. It's a single target stun that you can really cycle if you can shave time off its cooldown by spamming damage buttons, but it can really help in a lot of very difficult to navigate pug scenarios, like the ones that Disc Priest will struggle with. So for that reason, like a lot of the very important casts, like a Firebolt Volley or whatever in the top end of Priory, or Resonating Barrage in Arakar is just a great example, or the Venom Volleys, very important cast, you can stun and just delay and then ping it that they're stunned so that your allies will draw attention to it. So it can handle a little bit more mechanics from that end than a Disc Priest. And in a pug group, sometimes a single target stun is enough. So yeah, roast me in the comments for putting Holy Priest high up, but you know what? This spec is fantastic in pug groups. I said it. It's also very easy. And on top of that, it also has a crazy good ramp that's very sustainable for Holy Priest. Like what you do is you put your wings on someone. I like to put it on myself so I stay alive guaranteed. But you put your wings on yourself, which makes you take more healing. Then you pop Premonition of Piety, which makes you do more healing, but also makes your any overhealing that you do spill out onto other allies. So you're basically just blasting spot heals into yourself that's going to spill out into everyone else. You're going to be full health and healthy. So it's just a very strong ramp for keeping yourself up and doing massive AoE at the same time. Fantastic. Also, one thing worth mentioning is you can really do some healing on the spec on the move, which is really nice if you're having to run away from someone aiming a frontal at you, looking at you tanks or something like that. It's very nice. So Holy Priest, definitely, I might be higher than most on Holy Priest, but I don't regret it at all. But moving on to Disc Priest, everything. Yeah, look, both Disc Priest hero talents are viable. I think Void Weaver, you definitely need more haste to make it play as well, to keep that maintenance throughput coming constantly in order to keep your pug group from like slowly falling down on health bars, to keep them at a safe health number so that if a random bolt goes off that they won't die to it. So I definitely do think that it's reasonable to kind of consider both hero talent trees when talking about Disc Priest. Now, both are very easy. Like I said, Void Weaver does the same oh my goodness, I can't speak. The same Mindbender ramp every 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds, you're just blasting heals, doing the same rotation. It's literally just pressing the same 3 damage buttons over and over. There's nothing hard about that other than maybe keeping your atonements on people, which is pretty easy nowadays with Smite extending them. So you shouldn't struggle there. It's very easy as long as you have the haste to manage it. However, Void Weaver does have a very fatal flaw in that if one person takes a big smack of damage, falls very low quickly, you lack the tools and resources to top them up quickly, because a lot of your kit is still kind of reserved for having mitigation. So you're supposed to be able to predict that damage and throw a pain sup on that ally if they're about to take a bolt or something. So in a pug group, like I've been saying all video, you cannot predict every bolt that's going to happen. Like, yes, you can watch web bolt cast finish, but you can't know if your team's going to kick it last second or not. So you can't afford to just pain sup every cast that goes out, because then you're going to be out of pain sup charges, right? So it does have that fatal flaw. On top of that, speaking of Oracle Disc Priest, it kind of has the opposite issue. You do very solid single target throughput because your penances will chunk, and you can spam penances with all the insight charges that you're going to be getting. But if massive AoE damage comes out, it does feel very clunky to spam around penances because you're topping up one person, then someone else will fall low. You have to top them up, and then someone else is falling low. So it did struggle like a bit in like some AoE damage scenarios. So if you're really relying on your party to handle like or to press defensives to survive, Oracle Disc Priest does kind of struggle in that sense. But so basically, both of them have these fatal flaws, right? That make them hard and very reliant on your DPS to be doing their thing and pressing their buttons correctly, their defensives and stuff, which is already kind of bad in a pug group because you guys know not every pug pops their defensives, right? On top of that, only having Psychic Scream is like pretty damning in these pug groups. Honestly, it's miserable. Pushing on Disc Priest, especially this season where there are so many important casts to kick. I've mentioned a few already in this video. It felt miserable, literally relying on your pugs to do that for you. So for that reason, I almost alone, to be honest, I'm slam dunking Disc Priest and you versus the party because you are literally relying on your party to kick the horrifying shrill, to kick the resonating barrage, to kick the triple bolts that are coming your way, the wicked bolts. Like you are literally relying on your party to do that for you, and that is never good in a pug environment. On top of that, a lot of your kit's reserved for predicting damage. You can't really do that in a party, so it is you versus your party for sure. Now, one healer that is not you versus your party, spoiler alert, is Resto Druid. Now, Resto Druid is the meta healer for a reason. It does one thing, and it does it really well, and that is that it does a ton of healing always. Resto Druid definitely holds the trophy for how much healing a healer could do outside of its cooldowns, because there were so many mechanics that like other healers would have to double up, like stack cooldown on top of cooldown, like Chi-Ji plus revival or Shaylun's plus Chi-Ji, you know? Whereas Resto Druid just didn't even have to use a cooldown. Like, oh, Swamp Face, I didn't press Convoke once. I just had Rejuve on everyone, had F-Flow down, press Wild Growth before the damage, and just Regrowth during it, and that was enough. Because sometimes you just pop off with your Symbiotic Blooms, and by sometimes I mean almost all the time. This spec, as long as you are always healing and basically acting as if everyone's or someone is about to take damage, like just be prepared at all times for someone to take damage, you will blast healing and it will feel so safe and you'll have a very easy time pushing up in keys. That being said, in order to master the spec, you do have to weave out of your druid stance, even if momentarily, and that time spent in your cat form, like to kick a cast or to reapply your dots to a boss, in a pug group, those few seconds can really come back to bite you, especially on a spec as I guess like proactively hot reliant as Resto Druid. So I definitely don't think that it doesn't have all the tools that Resto Shaman has, and although it can heal like a mofo, so can Holy Priest. And there is a little bit of downtime that you're just gonna have to use, like to have, that if you have to kick a cast, one, it jumps you into melee, which can put you in some danger, and two, it's just downtime that you're not prepping hots, which then will probably make your ramp 5 seconds later when the actual damage mechanic comes out much weaker, and if a cast goes off during that, someone's dying, you know? So all of these things come together that I definitely just don't think it's on the same tier as Resto Shaman. Now, I will admit, I do think that Resto Druid is a little bit above Holy Priest, so I'm sure most of you will agree with me there. So if there were a tier between carry every pug and carry most pugs, I definitely would put Resto Druid in it, because it is really, really solid of a healer. But yeah, there is some nuances to the spec that can kind of hold you back. And on top of that, it does kind of take some practice getting used to the rotation for sure, which is spamming around hots. One other healer that I definitely think is above Holy Priest, but not quite to Resto Shaman level, is Holy Paladin. Holy Paladin absolutely shocked me, no pun intended, this tier. All of the buffs that they got to their spot heals, their shock heals, where like you feel them. And all video I've been talking about, like, oh, what if your pug gets hit by a wicked bolt or some kind of cast? Holy Paladin does not care. They have so many different ways to slam your health bar back up. You have 2 charges of Holy Shock, that chunk. You have Eternal Flame probably ready to go, that chunks. You probably have your Infusion of Light procs that you can Flash of Light them all the way to full health in an instant, that chunks. You know, like you have so many ways to spot heal health bars, and that is your biggest strength. But in order to turn that spot healing strength into an AoE healing strength, all you have to do is press your 15-second cooldown, Beacon of Virtue. So now all of your spot heals do AoE healing, and your strength is now being multifaceted tool. You know, it is, your spot healing is good spot healing, but it's also pretty good AoE healing. So this spec literally has a tool for everything. Now, I will say that one thing that kind of held it back in the past is it is very strong in its wings, and you definitely do feel much weaker outside of its wings. But like I said, with Beacon of Virtue always ready to go, and with its tier set extending the value, the time that you get value from your wings, you definitely feel like you're outside of your wings cooldown much less of the time, which is good. So I definitely do think that there is a lot going for Holy Paladin, and I think it is like 100% a fantastic pick for pug groups. And like I said, it does have a lot of reactive healing that's very good for a pug group, but it also has some pretty good proactiveness. So if you really need to, if you have one ally that just will not press a defensive, you can sack them, or you can immune them. You can immune yourself and sack them if you get the dot, but you need to help them through it. Like, if you have someone in Dawnbreaker that stands in the orb, you can sack them, you can immune them, you can sack them, then immune yourself. There's just so many different things that you can do on this spec. It's just a really well-rounded spec for a pug group. Has great shock healing, great AoE healing, great cooldowns. Pretty strong outside of its cooldowns. Has an AoE stop, or an AoE like disorient or something. A single target stun, single target kick, great mobility. You can break your tank out of roots, you know, like things like that. It's just a great healer. It's honestly a great healer for a pug group. Has like almost the perfect kit for a pug environment. But guys, that's going to do it for this pug tier list. I want to really quickly once again say, for anyone that skipped to the end, this is not like a meta tier list. Like, I definitely think this would be shifted around quite a bit if we were talking about like, oh, what are the pros playing? If you were pushing to 3K, basically how easy of a time would you have in a pug group? Like, if you were pugging all the way to 3K on each healer, how much time do I think it would take you on average? I think that you could probably get a 3K push done in literally a weekend on a Resto Shaman, but I think that it would probably take like 2 weeks on this priest. So this is my take. This is my tier list. I think these are very fun to make, especially if I'm not. Hopefully this doesn't like, I don't know, a lot of people hate tier lists. I get it, trust me. But whenever I keep them in this realm, I think we can all agree that it's fine, hopefully. But I'm happy with this. I'm looking at it. I'm trying to think, would I change anything? And honestly, not at all. I think this is the perfect pug healing tier list. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, because I love these videos, because you guys always bring very good points of why this healer should be higher, this healer should be lower. Like, are you kidding me? Like, Resto Shaman can't carry anything. You know, I love having these discussions down below with you guys. So make sure and comment down below what you think, what you would change. And guys, that's gonna do it for this one. Like the video if you liked it, and so hit subscribe so you don't miss any future healer content. Guys, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care, guys.